And if you're not familiar with Anthony Curtis, he's from the Las Vegas Advisor, and we have him on every month or two to talk about all the new goings on in Las Vegas. So I guess we'll start with the usual question: how is business?
The same thing as last time. When we've talked the last couple of times, I've said there seems to be some concern that, all of a sudden this nonstop freight train of Vegas, bigger, better, more is going to slow down, but it still doesn't seem to quite do that. The last month was the first down month for gambling revenue in like 4 or 5, but I'll bet you it bounces right back. So I would say business continues to be good in Vegas.
Okay. I know we always you keep track of the resort fees. Resort fees still going up?
They just incrementally, a dollar here, a dollar there. One place will do it. They'll wait 6 months and they'll raise it another $2. So yes, they steadily go up. But once they went through the $50 barrier and they all started doing it, it's going to be a long time before they start going farther than that, up into the 55s and 60s. So you've got a lot of places that's $50 a night, which sucks, obviously, but nothing, huge like, oh my God, MGM just raised everything by $12. We haven't seen that for a while.
Okay. Yeah, I know that would be the good thing about business softening up is if it finally does soften up, maybe they'll relax some of those resort fees a bit.
Yeah, we're already hearing that. We're hearing when you hear the analysts talk about it, they go, well, this portends, if business is going to slow down, this portends a softening of other, prices,
Hmm.
meaning possibly. But I don't know of a place, honestly. I don't think I've ever heard of a place that reduced the resort fee. All right, once they're there, they're there. I don't think they're going to go backwards unless something really drastic happens.
Hmm. I know this isn't Vegas. It was in, but Grand Sierra up in Reno. I saw that. I guess they have some fire up there, and they were offering like I think it was like $35 room rates and no resort fees for anybody that was evacuating from the fires that they're having up there, which I thought was a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, well, we're seeing a little bit of that. I mean, we see some of the places do that with as promotions,
Hmm.
and with the Las Vegas Advisor, our members get um, no resort fees. They get to waive resort fees at Downtown Grand in the Rio. So they
Hmm.
use that as promotional things from time to
Hmm.
time. But in terms of the general public, they're not going to give up that revenue. So we might not see them escalating the way they have been, but I don't think you're going to see them retract.
Hmm. And what about parking fees? Same thing?
Same thing. Yeah, nothing changed. With parking fees, they go back and forth. Like they might say, okay, we're going to grant an extra hour grace time or something like that where you don't have to pay. Like most of the places, you can go in and spend 2 to 3 hours. And if you're out in that amount of time, you don't have to pay the fee.
Oh, that's
Not
cool.
all. That's almost for all of the places for locals, but for
Hmm.
people from out of town, not all of them. Again, LasVegasAdvisor.com, we have a big list. You can find the places that do that.
Cool. And then I guess the big news right now is they finally scheduled the demolition of the Tropicana, right? The big
Yeah, that's
implosion.
yeah, it's funny. They for weeks and weeks they were saying, okay, we've pulled the permits on the implosion. Now, first of all, the resort itself is almost completely demolished. All right,
That's
they
what I
did
thought. They were tearing it down when I was in Vegas. What are they just doing? The tower is going to be the implosion, or
yeah, they made what they call a mechanical demolition, which
uh-huh.
they use bulldozers and the claws and everything else, and they've torn down, you know, all of the rest of it. But there's the two towers, and those two towers they've got to be imploded. So they put
Gotcha.
permits on that, and they said it was going to be done sometime between the end of September 30th and October 8th. And so they
Okay.
finally came out with the official date, and it's October 9th. So I
Okay.
don't I don't quite understand that. It's going to be October 9th, 2:30 a.m.
Oh,
They're
they're doing
doing
it
the
in the middle of the night. Interesting.
middle of the night, which would have you think, okay, so they want this to be kind of like an under the radar type thing, right? They don't want people gathering and all of that. But then they announced that it's going to be preceded by a fireworks and a drone show. So,
Okay.
so I don't know what the 2:30 is all about. Um, they've already blocked off access to the pedestrian bridges that go across the Tropicana. Those are closed off.
Mhm.
So, you know, they got a big fence around the thing, but that's what it's going to be at 2:30 in the morning. There's going to be a big show, and then they're gonna take the towers down, right? They're going to take the towers down with a regular implosion, and everybody's waiting on that. Then, ostensibly, all work and efforts will turn towards building the baseball stadium there, but that's anywhere near a done deal. I
I
mean,
was
that's
just gonna
not,
say the team is not even guaranteed to be coming to Vegas yet, right?
yeah, not anywhere near a done deal. Nobody knows what the hell is going to happen with that, if it's going to be built there on that site or not. So
Mhm.
everyone's just waiting to see what's going to happen. But it looks pretty much written in stone that October 9th, the towers are going to go down.
And then what about any games getting worse? Any games getting better? How's the gambling going over there?
Again, status quo. I haven't seen anything that really, really changes. The places that are better typically remain better. I mean, one place that's notably gotten worse would be downtown Grand. They
Oh, that
were,
sucks because they were always pretty good.
yeah, they're still okay. I mean, but they were very loose with the things they did down there. The word is it's up for sale. They're kind of tightening up with a lot of things. They had the great quarter 25 cent like five-way progressive, which is now a three-way progressive, and they downgraded the base payoffs a bit. So it's not as great as it has been, but overall, Vegas is pretty much the same as it. The loose places, more downtown, places like maybe South Point, maybe places on Boulder Highway, that sort of thing. The strip is as tight as a drum as it always has been.
Now the Rio, once that got taken over, the games there decent. I know you were saying the Players Club is pretty good, but I don't remember if we mentioned how the games are themselves there.
The games aren't great at Rio. It surprised me. I thought the Rio would, they're doing a lot to bring in customers. What you want to do at the Rio, I've said this before, is you just want to get on their list and give them some action when you come to town. Now, they're great. Their games aren't terrific. They're like, you know, high 99% I mean, I'm sorry, high 98%
Mhm.
or low 99. If you get up to the $2 level and above, you're going to get the A5 bonus poker games. But for the most part, if you're a quarter a dollar player, you're going to be playing in the 98 percenters, which isn't, fabulous, but you're probably going to get some good mail from the Rio. The Rio's a place you want to give a little action to.
And I mean, 98 high 98s is good for the rest of the country. I mean, that's great. I wish we could have high 98% games all down here in South Florida.
Yeah, we're looking at like, the 98.998 and the
Hmm
98.8 and all that stuff.
hmm
You're right. Compared to a lot of other places, but compared to Vegas, it's
Yeah.
second tier. You've definitely got casinos with 99 percenters all around.
And then what was this we were just talking about before we started? You were saying something about Warner Brothers is trying to open a huge movie production place there.
Well, here's what, maybe the beginning of this year, toward the January, February of this year, Sony came in and said they wanted to build a movie studio in the western part of, up near Summerlin area.
Hmm
And they were
Which
going
is that's
to,
like out by the Rampart, right?
yes, up in
Uh-huh.
that area. And that was kind of a big deal. Everyone's like, okay, so Vegas is going to have its own movie studio. They were going to pledge something like $2 billion in, in bringing in business, paying for companies to come in and to shoot here. Now, at the end of last month, Warner Brothers comes in. They say they want to do the same thing. It's a separate project, also on the west side, but on the south instead of the north. And they're pledging 8.5 billion. So
Wow.
all of a sudden, and Sony supposedly still wants to do it. So all of a sudden, you're looking at what they're calling Hollywood 2.0, which is this big effort that was started by Mark Wahlberg. All right. So Wahlberg moved to Vegas, and with his connections, he's all like, let's build a studio here. And it started with Sony, and now it goes to Warner Brothers. And the problem is, it's all dependent on tax incentives. So the legislature here has to pass really good liberal tax incentives for the movie industry. And we won't know about that until 2025. That's when that vote will be taken. But if it happens, I mean, it could be pretty exciting in terms of the movie industry here in Vegas.
So if you said out west and to the south, that would be like near Durango Station or
Yeah, yeah,
gotcha.
right up in that area. So
Okay.
I mean, that would really, that's an energized part of the valley anyway. They call it the Las Vegas Valley. We really have mountains all around us. and we're all in a valley. And that southwest section up there with Durango coming online, and then this possibility, and a lot of growth out there in terms of the residential. So, that's like the hot part of Vegas right now. And that's
Cool.
why Durango is doing so well. I didn't think Durango was going to do too well, but they're sucking everyone in from that area, and they're doing just fine.
Oh, that's cool. That's on my further down on my list. In case you can't tell, all of my geography in Vegas is based entirely off of casinos.
Yeah, I know. Well, when you live here, it's casinos and bars. You go,
Yeah,
well, what
there
is
you go.
that next to? Oh, yeah, okay, I know where you're at.
Okay, so and then you had also mentioned somebody's trying to build a mixed use thing out where Riviera was.
Yeah, that's the other big news on the strip. I mean, we're hearing about new projects that are sort of like pipe dreams. We're going to
Mhm.
build this, 5,000 room casino with, 100 floors, that kind of crap. And then it kind of doesn't happen, or, one in five will come through. But there's like a discussion now about a new sort of entertainment property without a casino being built where the Riviera used to be. And they're talking about two towers that are almost as tall as Fontainebleau right next to it. And they're going to have, retail and dining and entertainment venues and all that kind of stuff. So you would go, okay, that sounds sort of pipe dreamish as well, except for one thing. It's by the same developers who did the 63 project at City Center. All right, so some people know about it, some don't, but it's called 63 at City Center. And it's a bunch of restaurants and bars and things like that they built out and retail. So they've got a real good track record, and this might be happening. That was the latest big project announced for Vegas.
And speaking of pipe dreams, that reminded me of something we talked about a few months ago. I wasn't the what's his name? I always want to say Frittata, but that's not right. The guy that owned Golden Nugget, didn't he buy a big chunk like where the Harley Davidson Cafe was or something? Is that still going to happen? Do
Yeah,
you know?
that's Tillman Fertitta.
Fertitta,
And
Frittata,
yeah,
same thing.
he's a cousin of the Fertitta brothers who own the big station casinos.
Uh,
Monster. With their casinos all over the place. So Tillman is every bit as big a deal as those guys are with casinos, a Golden Nugget brand, the Golden Nugget here in Vegas, casinos all around the country. And he bought that corner on Harmon in the Strip, was essentially is across the street from City Center. And
mhm.
he's going to build his own casino there. I believe that's absolutely going to happen. Nothing's started yet, but I believe that's going to happen within the next couple of years.
But they did tear everything down there, or most of it down, right? I think the
Um,
last time I was there, they were starting to.
there was a little bit of it, not all of it has been
Mhm.
cleared. So, there's still some structures there, but yeah, they're pretty close to, I think, really getting that going in earnest.
And then I guess you were also mentioning before we started, you said Circa's opening up another big block of rooms.
Well,
So,
here's the interesting thing about Circa. When it opened, all the advertisements about Circa was 777 rooms,
uh-huh.
right? It makes sense, I mean,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah, yeah.
cool gambling number, 777 rooms. But that's not really a huge casino hotel for a casino. And Circa is like every bit a a strip style casino downtown, except for the number of rooms they have. Well, they opened with only 500 and something, so nowhere near 777, and they had another 102 rooms over 4 floors that were never opened.
Hmm.
And the reason why is they just didn't think they would have the demand right off the start. They were, the pandemic was going on, various reasons. And now, after like 3 or 4 years of being open, going into their fourth year, I believe, they're going to open these other 102 rooms, and they're going to raise their room count to up to 618 or something along those lines.
Still
So
not 777.
no, they're never going to. Actually, Derek Stevens said, no, we're never going to hit 777. It's just it was something they thought they were going to do. They used it to advertise, but they're not going to do that. But these rooms are going to open between now and Christmas, and that might be good. It might, room rates are usually pretty high at Circa because demand is high and they have a low count of rooms. So, adding
Mhm.
these extra rooms might, especially during slow times, might give you a chance to stay at Circa, which is a nice experience. That's a beautiful, resort.
And then today, when we're filming this, is September 10th. Last night was the first Monday Night Football. So, what's going on with football season in Vegas?
Well, Monday Night Football used to be, it was the biggest night of the week during football season, going back 25 years up to about maybe 5 years ago. So it had about a 2 decade run where every casino, just about, and bars all over town all had to have some sort of special for Monday night. And about 5 years, I guess, probably going into the pandemic right before, they kind of made up their mind that they didn't want to do these big Monday night parties anymore. They began to dwindle off. And I used to go on that Monday night. There used to be a double header on Monday Night Football, and I would hit sometimes more than 30 different casinos and bars, sticking my head in, looking at the deal, looking at the crowds, taking pictures, everything else. And last night I went to 6 different places only, six, where I'd heard there were going to be some parties, and really there aren't. The Monday night thing is just it's always big in the sports books. And that's what you do for Monday night. There's only one big giant Monday night party, and that's at South Point. And I went yesterday there, and it was jam packed. And they give away $1,000, and they have $1.50 hot dogs and $2 beers, just like it used to be, and a
Oh,
packed
sweet.
house, big screens. So that's really the only one going right now in Vegas. The rest is all sports books.
Huh. Well, so let me ask you this. Do you think that that's just because like it was the first week and there was only the one game? Like when we start having double headers, you think it's going to pick up, or you think that's just how it is now?
No, the casinos just decided they didn't want to spend the money. I mean, it was part of the
Mhm.
casino cutback on their give back to the customers. They didn't want to sell beers for $2. They didn't want to sell hot dogs for $1. They figured they can get full, $12 for a turkey sandwich at the deli next door. So,
Yep.
they just what has taken over is what we call team bars, places where everybody goes because it's known as a bar that follows that particular team. For example, there's a place called Jackpot Bar and Grill here that follows the Kansas City Chiefs. And I went in there on the Thursday night game for the Chiefs, and that place was a sea of red, man. I mean, it was jam packed. They had bar specials, they had everything else going on. The day before that, the first game, was it then? I forget what it was. I think it was the first game with the Baltimore Ravens. I went to a place called the Maryland Crab House here. They follow the Ravens,
Mhm.
jam packed. They were
Well, it
giving
was the
away.
Ravens played the Chiefs.
That's what it was. That's what it
Yeah.
was. I did it both on the same night. I went from the
Yeah.
Ravens bar to the Chiefs bar,
Yeah.
both of them. It went so you go from one place where the Ravens bar is jam packed, and they're giving shots every time the Ravens scored, to the next bar where it's just all Chiefs fans. And that's what I'm doing now. Yesterday I went to some 49ers bar to watch the 49ers game, and that's what we're checking out now is all these different team bars, because some are bigger than others. But
Mhm.
the great Monday nights are parties are they're pretty much a thing of the past unless you go to South Point.
You found a Dolphins bar yet?
Yeah, there is a Dolphins bar.
Oh,
It's
nice. I was not
it's
expecting you to say yes.
there is it's called Tommy Rockers. And I went to that one on Sunday and I checked it out. And it was a little bit more subdued, but it was all green and white, right? And they all
Uh-huh.
had they had their jerseys on. It was on every TV. And there were a bunch of people there that were all Dolphins fans. So that's
Nice.
the thing. We look for different things to put up at LasVegasAdvisor.com that other people don't. And
Hmm.
we have a whole thing of where all the team bars are, and we'll finish our research in the next couple of weeks, and we'll have them all up there.
Nice. And now, I guess the last time we spoke, we were talking about MGM had taken over the management of the Cosmopolitan Casino. They were in the process of switching over from the Identity Players Club to the M Life. I think you said that they were doing that like the same day we did the last interview. And now I hear they're trying to sell the Cosmo.
Well, everybody always wants to sell a Cosmo, but yeah, they did make the change. It's now M Life.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got an identity card, you take it in, they'll flip you over. I'm not sure if they're doing anything special for that, but all your points are saved. So it's really nothing has changed except it's not identity anymore. It's M Life. Um, I mean, in that system, that is.
Well, so something weird happened to me with the Cosmo because my fiance Holly and I were coming out there next month at the end of October for that big when we were young, the punk rock festival out at the fairgrounds over near Circus Circus. And I was trying to stay at Cosmo. I had an offer that said it was valid for now at Cosmo for the month of October. And I called to book it, and they're like, "Oh, that was when we were Identity. We're M Life now. We can't give you anything. You don't have any play at MGM properties."
Oh, wow. That's surprising to me.
And
We did.
then the next day, so I ended up booking the whole trip at Resorts World. The next day, I get an email for 4 nights for free and like $300 in free play. That it was like literally the next day or the day after. I
At
got an
Cosmo.
email that they're like, "Oh, come back. We got 4 nights for free." But meanwhile, I called and they wouldn't give me anything the day before. So.
You know what? So much of that stuff has to do with who you get. And
Mm-hmm.
at LVA, we deal a lot with deals and bargains and values, and we'll write about something, and somebody will write and go, "It didn't happen anything like you said," and we look into it to see if it had changed. And no, what it turns out to be is that you've got a frontline employee who doesn't know the drill,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know what's going on, or doesn't care to, and that experience goes down the tubes. So it happens a lot. Sometimes we're reviewing something and it's obvious that we've got an employee like that. This happened at the Palms. Palms has a really great happy hour deal in their what's it called, 80 Prime,
Mm-hmm.
their gourmet restaurant. And it's a very good happy hour with everything discounted, basically 50% off on steaks and all kinds of stuff.
Oh wow.
And we had a terrible experience because when we were reviewing it, because we could tell that the people who were there weren't down with the program and didn't
Mm-hmm.
really want to handle it the proper way. Um, we didn't bust them for it. We didn't go, "This is crappy, don't go to it." We said we had kind of an off experience, and it has to do with the people who were working at the time. We've talked to so many other people that had a great experience with it. So you never know. Whoever you get on the phone, whoever you get with the email, it's
Yeah.
like trying to deal with Amazon. Sometimes, we sell books, and sometimes there's a problem. And sometimes you get somebody at Amazon who solves the problem in 20 minutes, and sometimes you get somebody who goes, "I can't help you."
Yeah.
You just never know. It depends on who you get.
And well, I mean, it's the same thing with the coupons. I mean, you've had the coupons for years. We had the coupons for years. You'd always get people complaining, "Oh, why you sell me a coupon that doesn't work?" And then you go through all your channels to figure out why the coupon wasn't accepted, and it was the same thing, just some employee that didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So,
And sometimes it's they just don't care, and
hmm
sometimes they just don't know,
hmm
and they just haven't been. Then that's their boss's fault. We get that all the time, especially
oh
when we get
yeah,
an offer. We have to go back to them again and say, "Your frontline employees don't know what's going on. They're turning people away. You can't do that."
yeah.
And then they go and they get it fixed. So that's probably what happened with you at Cosmopolitan. Most of what I've heard is that you take up right where you left off as a customer of whatever status.
hmm
That may not be so, but I know your points don't go away.
Yeah. Oh well, that's good to know. Maybe I'll make a trip back. Now, how is Fountain Blue doing?
Fountain Blue, I think a little better. I think that Fountain Blue, they kind of got the memo that
hmm
people weren't liking the way they came out of the box. And I got to be honest, the last time I walked through there, I went there to do a card upgrade. So I
hmm
went to, do a tier match thing.
What we talked about in the last video.
Yeah, and the tier match stuff is good. And I went to do that, and their casino was fairly busy. There were people gambling much better than, much more in terms of population and number of people than I'd seen in the past. So you're not hearing as many people getting on their case about stuff. It's almost like they fixed a few things. I know they had a lot of turnover at the top, and maybe they're acting more like a casino these days, at least from what I've heard.
Nice. I know when I was there last time with Holly, I don't even remember when that was. I think it was probably July or something. And we did the same thing. We went to tier match, and my God, that line was so long at the Players Club because everybody was trying to do that because it was a good tier match.
Yeah, it was a good deal. If that went, it's no longer available. That was in tandem with,
Yeah.
especially if you were a local, you could go to the Mirage just before it closed, and they upgraded you immediately as a local, and then you took your upgraded card over there for a tier match. at Fontainebleau. And all of a sudden you're getting like $100 or 150 meal comp and, on and on and
Mm-hmm.
on. They're trying to get people in to see their property. Their strategy is once you see us, you're going to love us. And so they're trying to get people in there. I think if you go in there, if you're a gambler of any substance at all, if you're, say, a dollar video poker player, and you go in and give them 15 or 20,000 worth of action, I think you're going to like the results in terms of mail.
Okay, maybe I'll have to try that. And I know I will say we stopped. That was all we did is I went for the tier match and then we just stopped for a drink at the bar. And they have fantastic cocktail program. Their bartenders are legit there, and they've got some really good custom cocktails as well on their
Yeah, well,
menu.
you know what? Maybe the only one better than that might be Resorts World. I mean, that's the big word on the street. If you're a drinker and you like top shelf stuff, they'll serve it to you for 25-cent action there at the bars. They're
Oh, sweet.
very, very loose with their drink comps. I mean, people drinking premium tequilas and whiskeys there for playing, a buck quarter a hand. That ain't bad. Me, I'm just I'll go and give me a beer. I'm not going to get the value out of it. So, but for those who like the high end liquor, it's a good one.
So at the Fountain Blue, the crazy thing is, so Holly and I were big foodies. We're coming out there, and one of my good friends, he used to be the head concierge at the Fountain Blue down here in Miami Beach, and he told me we love sushi, and he's like, "Oh, there's an omakase place, you got to try it out." We when our last trip we couldn't book it because it was fully reserved because I think it's like a 12-seat restaurant. There's no omakase if you're not familiar. There's no menu. It's just a set number of courses, and the sushi chef just serves you whatever is fresh that day, whatever he decides he wants to cook. We wanted to do that, except it was $400 a person for I think it was 11 courses with no alcohol included.
Yeah, that's that's the high end number around here, and it's not. Was that at Fontainebleau? That
Yeah,
was
it was
at
at the
there.
one that's up on like the 30 whatever floor or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
There's one right around the corner from our office called Kame,
Uh,
Kame. Everyone says it's as good as anything. $400. It's an omakase serving, $400. They say it's brilliant, but I don't know, man. That'd have to be some damn good fish.
that's the thing is there's one down here in South Miami that we go to that has a Michelin star and it's only $250 a person. And that's
Okay.
like our splurging once a year meal. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Even I love spending money and I can't even bring myself to pay $400 a person for omakase.
Well, I'll tell you what, Vegas has got some great sushi restaurants. It really
Mm-hmm.
does. I mean, there's a place called Kabuto. There's a place called Yui at Edomai. Um, Hiroroshi is another one, which is cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just fabulous fish. And they're going to scalp you, man. They're going to scalp you at the big, place like Nobu or whatever. I mean, anytime you get a comp and you go to Nobu at Virgin or you go to Nobu at Caesars now, it's great to go, but you're going to come out of there with a $400 bill easy, and usually more like 600, 300 a head, and that's not even omakase. That's just ordering off the restaurant menu. But some of these side places in Vegas are really good.
Yeah, and then so I guess to circle back around, let's talk about Durango. You said you were surprised at how well Durango's doing. What's going on over there?
Well, I didn't think Durango was going to pull it off because their location, they'd really have to hit a home run with everybody out there, and they have. They did real good with their food court or food hall, as they call it now.
Mm-hmm.
Some really good restaurants in there, and I didn't think they would be able to pull it off because their video poker is not up to par with the other station casinos. I mean, the best game in there, back to saying what we were talking about the Rio, 99.17%, for 8-5 bonus poker. But apparently that hasn't affected things. They've been extremely busy. I hear they're doing very well. They say they're going to possibly add on to it. And they're smart. Station casinos, they're no friend of mine, but they're smart. They know what they're
No friend
doing.
of ours either.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a plan, they stick to it. So, good for you. You do what works.
Yes, you can't say we're biased, even though we don't like them. Credit where it's due.
That's another thing. South Point. I have a real problem with South Point. We've had a few deals with South Point, but we can't really get over the hump with them being friendly to LVA. Yet all I ever do is praise them because they are just maybe the best casino in Vegas for the low and middle roller.
Mhm.
They've got just a great video poker. They've got great restaurants. They have reasonable prices on everything. They have that big party on Monday night. They haven't given up the ghost on that. They do it, you know, it's Michael Gaughan runs the show there. He's the guy that doesn't care for us, apparently. You know, we've heard. And I'm sorry for that, but boy, they it's just a great casino, and I'm never going to take it away. There are still lots of things at the station casinos that are worth going for. Boyd, same thing. You know, they don't work with us anymore either, but there's a lot of reasons to go to their casinos.
Yep. And then I guess Caesars, anything going on with them? They trying to sell any casinos? You heard any smelled any whiffs of anything going on with
No,
Caesars?
no, Caesars was in that scramble mode for a while. You know, they're going to sell off and this and that, and they got rid of the Rio, which was a good thing because they weren't doing anything with the Rio. And we've talked about the Rio a couple of times. I really like what they're doing at the Rio. I think it's going to get better and better there. But supposedly Flamingo was up for sale, supposedly possibly Planet Hollywood. None of them sold. And you
Mhm.
don't hear that anymore. The only one you hear that's on the block right now is downtown, the downtown Grand. That's the only one that's visibly, supposedly up for sale.
Gotcha. Yeah. What's interesting is, do you know if Caesars has any relation? Do you know how they have like Maryland Live, the live casinos?
Well, I know they've got casinos all around. I mean,
Yeah,
they've
well,
got,
so it's weird. So we've got the what is it called now? Harris Pompano Beach down here in Florida by us, and they're putting a big multi-use facility outside. Like they just opened a Top Golf, and they're putting a bunch of stores and stuff in. But the casino is branded as Harrah's, and the outside multi-use area is branded as the Live. It's Pompano Live.
hmm.
So I thought it was that confused me because I didn't think they had any relation, but then I was confused as to why they're
Well, I'm sure.
mixing logos down here.
Yeah, well, I mean, Caesars was Harrah's. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Harrah's Caesars.
Well,
I'm
that
sure.
made sense, but then I don't know why the live casinos, which I think are their own brand, why they're branding all the stores outside with a different casino brand when they've got the Caesars. I don't know.
Yeah, that answer I don't have. I don't
Okay,
know.
I was just wondering if I missed something because I
I don't
didn't think
think so.
that made any sense.
I think they just think there's still some value in
Mm-hmm.
those different brands, and there's a reason to for them to differentiate. You know, I don't know.
And I saw that the UFC is coming to the Sphere, right?
Yeah, that's this weekend.
That
That's yeah. I don't know
seemed
when
kind
this
of
show.
odd to me.
I don't know when you're going to air this show, but this is going to be the weekend of the whatever the 13th or 14th or
Uh-huh.
what it's going to be. Um, they're trying to make this like the next big leap in sports entertainment, where they're going to use all of the gimmicks and all the bells and whistles of the Sphere to hold this match, which will be interesting to see. You know, I went um, to a UFC fight years ago. I like them. I watch them. I bet on them. I come from that world as a wrestler. I understand it a lot, so I have a great interest in it. I went to see it live, and I said never again. I
Mm.
couldn't see, I couldn't tell what was going on. I spent the whole time looking up at the the feed on
Jumbotron.
the
Yeah.
screens, yeah, and left in the middle of it to get back to watch it on TV in my at my house. Um, they're with this, they're trying to do something that Dana White has said this is going to revolutionize what it's like to watch sports live. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
see. I don't know what they're going to do. That Sphere can do a lot of different things. So we'll see what they do with it. But yeah, this is a big deal in the sports and entertainment fields both. What's going to happen this weekend?
I'm interested to see that because my first thought was there's not going to, because you know how sometimes they got to close half the, or like if it's a rectangle shaped arena, it doesn't really work well with UFC having to be a full circle. But if it's a full sphere, there's not going to be a bad seat in the house. I just wasn't sure how they'd use all the technology for it, but I guess we'll see.
Well, the problem is, I always felt for UFC, and also because of the cage, that almost everything was a bad seat, unless you were
Mm-hmm.
really, really close. Now, I know what you're saying from a perspective for sight lines. Yeah,
Yeah, sightlines, yes.
be able to see straight through, but what are they going to see through to the cage?
Yeah.
Then you see through that. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. That's always for me has been the one big drawback of UFC is that it's really not, although they fill those arenas. So I guess it is a live spectator sport. For me,
Hmm.
I have no interest in it. I'd much rather go watch a hockey game at T-Mobile.
Yeah. Now, one other thing that I realized we had not talked about at all in any of our interviews is, did they ever open that the loop thing with all the Teslas that goes underground? What the hell ever happened with that?
Oh, they did. Oh, yeah. They opened it, and it's operational in certain areas on the north end of the strip between the convention center and, for instance, you'll see when you're at Resorts World, they have a loop station right there.
I
And
saw that was what reminded me is I saw the signs for it the last time I was at Resorts World. Is it just a one stop or it's multi stops or?
no, they're branching it out, and I think it now goes to two or three different stops, but they're building them all over the city. They're literally the uh, the Tesla group bought Musk's group bought the property behind our office, and supposedly they're building a Tesla station right behind us, which is cool. I mean, that would be
Oh,
great.
that'd be great for you guys. It's going to skyrocket your property value.
It would be very nice, but it wasn't so good so far because one of their trucks backed right through our building last month. Yeah, they backed right through our building there. So
They must have been using that self-driving from Tesla.
I don't know. I guess so. I mean, I was like, you guys, you can't go through the building. You got to go under it. That
Mhm.
sort of thing. But no, that's going to be a real deal. The what do you call it? The thing. What's it? Oh shoot! What's the thing that goes back and forth up on the monorail?
Monorail?
Yeah, the monorail
Yeah.
never caught on. I
Hmm.
mean, the monorail still runs, but it doesn't really get much use. I think
But
this
those were
Tesla,
all kind of bad stops, though. They were all kind of out of the way.
it's just strange. The way they built it is strange, and I mean,
Yeah.
conventioneers use it, and that's about it. Like most tourists don't bother with the monorail. They
Hmm.
use other things. This Tesla thing, though, is going to be something, I believe.
Nice. All right. Well, I think that does it for me. Do you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, just of interest for anybody. You'll probably read about it somewhere, but they broke all kinds of records in the Circus Survivor contest at downtown at Circa, where they got 14,000 entries,
That's for
right?
the football betting, right? Where you got to go see how many games you can get right throughout the season.
Well, no, with this one, you pick one every week, and you
Oh,
only pick a winner. You don't pick against the spread, and you pick one team, but you can only use that team once, and then you can no longer use it.
oh, that
Okay.
sounds super cool.
Yeah, except for one thing. In the first week, this week, almost 40% were on the Bengals, and the Bengals got upset.
Wow.
So right off the bat, there's 14, and it's winner take all.
Mm.
14 million, 14.2 million goes to the winner,
How much
and
was it to buy in?
1,000, which is $1,000 per entry. So 4,000 people lost their $1,000 buy-in in the first week.
That's but I can't really blame them, against the Patriots with Jacoby Brissett or whatever his name is and a brand new head coach. I don't blame them for taking that bet.
Amazing, but biggest upset of the weekend, knocked 40% out of the tournament. That's
Hmm.
40% knocked out of the tournament on the first day. So
Wow.
anyway, a little bit of excitement in contest land here.
All right. Well, Anthony Curtis, thank you for joining us as always. If people want to learn more about you and your work, where can they do that?
Well, LasVegasAdvisor.com. If you're on your computer, on your phone, and if you like watching YouTube, we drop a show every week. So just look for Las Vegas Advisor on YouTube, and we get into all the things we discussed in more detail.
All right. Thank you, Anthony.
All right. Thanks, Matt.